5th, I'm Abby Huntsman. We start with a Fox News alert. The manhunt is over, but the motive still a mystery overnight. Police arresting this Turkish immigrant who gunned down 5 people at a Washington mall. What we know about his murderous rampage, that is straight ahead.
And then on the eve of the first presidential debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, brand new polls show an absolute dead heat, with Trump maybe up a little bit. We'll break down the numbers in a live report from the campaign trail. It's coming up next.
And if you thought this presidential race couldn't get any better, well, it just did. Bill Clinton's ex-mistress, Gennifer Flowers, says she's ready to show up at the debate and support Donald Trump. Will she be sitting in the front row staring at Hillary Clinton? It's not made up. Fox and Friends starts right now. Oh, can you smell it?
Well, yes, I can. That is Hofstra University on Long Island, New York, and that's going to be the scene of the first presidential debate tomorrow night. Will you be watching? Yes, you will.
Now, I'm trying to look at this podium. Let's keep this shot up a second, because we do know that obviously Hillary Clinton will not get a stool to stand on, but we do know that they've altered, I think, the height of the podium. You can see it looks like the one to the right is to the left is probably hers, right?
To make them look a little bit more even.
A little bit
do
more
what
even.
they can do.
Yeah, I guess.
No bathroom breaks.
They said they would alter it.
No nothing.
Evening the podium field. Yes.
Guys, and as if this race could get any more bizarre and awkward. I mean, the
or
tweets
awesome,
that
depending
are
on how you view it.
Right.
I mean, now you could have, per Donald Trump's tweet yesterday that he had to retweet because he spelled the name wrong,
Yes.
Gennifer Flowers, who of course once had an affair with Bill Clinton, who has been invited to sit on the front row of this debate staring straight at Hillary Clinton. What's also so awkward about this is she came out a year ago talking about Hillary Clinton, saying she's basically an enabler. Let's play that. Oh. Actually, we're going to play that a little bit later. But Donald Trump, he is in full warm-up mode for perhaps his biggest debate performance ever, and that is tomorrow night.
I think what you meant to say is, let's imagine that.
Right.
Which is entirely possible. Well, all of this is unfolding against a backdrop of new polls that show the race tied.
Fox News senior national correspondent John Roberts outside Trump Tower here in New York with a preview of the big battle at Hofstra. Good morning, John.
Clayton, Abby, Tucker, good morning, too. Yeah, let's take a look at this. The new Washington Post ABC News poll. It's got basically a dead heat. It's well within the margin of error. Has Hillary Clinton up by 2 points, 46 to 44 in a four-way race among likely voters. If you take the broader pool of registered voters, now not to say that all these people are going to come out and vote, it's dead even at 41 to 41. Everybody, of course, looking forward to the big debate tomorrow night at Hofstra University. I think this has got the potential to be the most significant presidential event since that first Al Gore-George Bush debate back in 2000. Donald Trump preparing differently than Al Gore did. Al Gore took an entire week, almost an entire week at Longboat Key to practice heavy sighing. Donald Trump has decided that he's not going to prepare in the traditional fashion, rather than doing mock debates at a podium, more or less just, knocking around some ideas of potential lines and not filling his head with too many facts, because he's worried. He's seen other people in the past get frozen up when they get into a debate. They get their head so full of facts and figures they really can't even talk. Also using momentum as a part of his debate strategy, keeping those rallies going. Last night in Roanoke, Virginia, reaching out to women voters. Listen to what Trump said.
My opponent likes to say that for decades she's been fighting for women, that she's been fighting for children. Why then are 70 million American women and children living in poverty or on the brink of poverty in our country?
Donald Trump will be taking some time off of debate prep today to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. According to the Jerusalem Post, Netanyahu will ask Trump and Hillary Clinton, when he meets with her today, to oppose any move by the United Nations to impose any kind of a settlement on Israel. And then back to what you were talking about at the top of this could be posturing more than anything. But after Mark Cuban tweeted out yesterday, billionaire Mark Cuban tweeted out that he was going to be in the front row at the debate, Donald Trump tweeted out, well, maybe I'll get Gennifer Flowers to sit in the front row. Gennifer Flowers and her representatives have said she's going to be there, but we don't know from the Trump campaign whether she has actually been invited. This may be more just a head game type of thing than a real plan.
Well, yeah,
Abby,
John,
Tucker?
and she tweeted out saying, hey, Donald, I'm in your corner, and I will definitely be at the debate.
Yeah.
And then she put a nice smooch sticker with lips as well, saying she's going to
Can't make it up.
I don't really know if that would be a brilliant political move for him to do that or not. Might upset a lot of women.
So awesome on so many levels. We're praying for it. John Roberts on the scene, Trump Tower. Great to see you, John.
Thanks, John.
I think it would be I think it would be a total
You think
distraction.
she's going to show up? You don't think so?
I don't think Jennifer Flowers is coming because I think Trump is in a pretty good spot. I mean, look, Hillary Clinton is defending Iowa and Ohio. It looks like she's moving in the wrong direction in Florida. She's losing states that Barack Obama won twice. This debate is more important for her than it is for Donald Trump.
Yeah, you just don't need this kind of distraction. You wonder though why they're even messing with it.
Well, I think he thinks he's got something to lose now. I think they believe I know they believe they're winning, and it looks like they are winning.
And so that's why you're seeing this spin from both sides of the campaign, right? You're seeing Hillary Clinton's team putting out this sexism stuff and saying, you know what, that she's always getting these really difficult questions. Men wouldn't get the same type of hard-line questions. But then on the Trump side, they're playing down expectations, basically saying, oh, you know what, this is his first time debating a woman, a one-on-one situation here that, you know, we don't expect probably too much from him.
Right, and we were talking about this before. John Roberts' report mentioning Jennifer Flowers and speaking out about a year ago against Hillary Clinton about her being an enabler of her husband, Bill Clinton. Let's play a bit of that.
You know, people criticize me for talking about her because I had an affair with her husband, and I don't blame them for that. I understand that. I understand that they can be mad at me. I get it. I accept my responsibility. But she's never accepted her responsibility in being an enabler. She's been an enabler that has encouraged him then to go out and do whatever he does with women. Our story should come back up with the circumstances going, with Hillary running. I mean, it should come back to the forefront again.
So, and Donald Trump brought it back to the forefront again. I mean, I think it is a total distraction.
I'm not sure he should, though. I mean, do we really want Donald Trump talking about other people's past marriages?
Just imagine the optics for a moment. Can you imagine Hillary Clinton having to stand there at a podium and stare down at Jennifer Flowers while she's trying to debate Donald Trump?
So
I don't think anybody wants to talk about the weirdness of the Clintons' marriage or the weirdness of anybody's marriage, honestly. Here's why it's relevant. She's running as a champion of all women, as the feminist candidate, and yet she didn't just marry a guy who cheated on her. She attacked the women, belittled the women, undermined the women, called the women trashy, psychopathic stalkers, whose only crime was to have an affair with her husband. If you're the candidate of women, why are you attacking women who did nothing wrong? I mean, I don't really understand that.
Right. But as you keep saying, Tucker, I think this is the right thing, is it's ultimately going to come down to their performance tomorrow night. And Donald Trump, a lot of people are going to be watching him, and which Donald Trump we're going to see, because we've seen a couple different versions over the course of the campaign trail. I think there's a montage that we have showing just different moments throughout this campaign.
This is the greatest hits compilation, I think.
Let's watch this.
Never attacked him on his look, and believe me, there's plenty of subject matter right there. That I can tell you. But Jim, am I talking or are you talking, Jim?
I'm talking right now. I'm talking.
You can go back. You're not talking. I know you're trying to build up your energy, Jim, but it's not working.
One at a time.
Don't worry about it, little Marco. I will.
All right. Well, let's hear Big Don.
Donald. Don't worry about it, Don't worry about it, little Marco. You're the liar. You're the lying guy up here. You're the one. You're the one.
Release the
You're
tape.
the one. Now let me just tell you. Let me just say. Excuse me. I've given my answer, Lion Ted. I've given my answer. He hit my hands. Nobody has ever hit my hands. I've never heard of this one. Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.
So who will show up tomorrow night?
He's just an animal. He's a Viking.
You forget all that
happened. If he showed up with a helmet with horns on it, it couldn't be more.
He's like, who?
He's awesome. It's a riot.
I don't know, but who's going to show up tomorrow night? Is he going to be a reserved, presidential-looking Donald Trump?
Look, as Giuliani said on our set yesterday, he's not going to remake himself with 45 days to go. And the truth is, these debates in general don't tend to determine the outcome of the race. I'm not sure there's any evidence of that. He could totally melt down. If he doesn't do that, status quo. And again, he's winning as of this morning. I don't think that's really percolated down to like the pundit class, but look at the numbers. He's winning states that Obama won last time. So he's got a lot to lose. I don't think he's going to act like that.
But I think the thing that people who know him very well say that what we saw during the primaries was like fake Donald. Like him doing all that little Marco stuff. That real Donald is the guy who is the reserved businessman who we may see tomorrow night, the more presidential looking.
Right.
That's what,
well, people are complicated. I mean, there are probably many Donalds, like there are many Clintons.
That's right.
But Hillary, but Are there a lot of versions of you?
Oh, totally.
No, but I just mean like it's all of a piece, don't you think?
That's right.
It's true, but Hillary Clinton is wanting to meet a
Hey,
limit.
little
They're
Vito,
wanting him
can
to
you
have...
lower the camera, little Vito? Lower the camera a little bit. Yeah.
I will say this. Trump is exactly the same in person as he is on television.
That is true.
Yeah, it
is true.
It is. So, like, what you see is what you get.
Let us know what you think about all of this. Friends at FoxNews.com. You can email us. Go to our Facebook page this morning. There's so much.
Yeah,
to
what
talk
version
about.
of Donald Trump do you want to see tomorrow night? We want to hear
Right.
from you guys. We do have some other headlines that we want to get to this morning, and we do start with a Fox News alert, and a desperate manhunt is over. A suspected killer is now in custody. Police arresting Arkan Katin without incident, who they say shot and killed 5 people in a Washington State mall. He was taken into custody in his hometown of Oak Harbor, about 30 miles southwest of Burlington, where the shooting happened. Seen as an immigrant from Turkey, despite initially being identified as Hispanic by authorities. And there are reports he may have been mentally ill, with a rap sheet including accusations of assault and drunk driving. Terrorism is also not being ruled out as a motive. And now to another Fox News alert. Chaos erupting in Charlotte for a 5th straight night following the shooting death of Keith Lamont Scott. And this as police have just released body and dash cam footage giving new insight into how it all unfolded. We want to warn you, though, these videos are a little bit graphic. Officers attempting to smash a Defiant Scott's passenger window. You can see there he finally gets out, walking backwards while officers ordering Scott to drop a gun before opening fire. Police also releasing these pictures from the scene. We're actually not going to show you these, but it shows a handgun, an ankle holster, and a marijuana blunt. His wife still insisting, though, that he had a book with him, not a gun. And the national anthem protest now spreading from the NFL to college stadiums. Several players for number 4 ranked Michigan holding up their fists during the Star-Spangled Banner. And a group of students in the stands in North Carolina also joining in on that, dozens wearing black shirts and refusing to stand up. All of this following San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick's national anthem protests. And those are some of your headlines this morning.
Well, coming up, a professor who has correctly predicted the last 8 presidential races says that, according to his calculations, Donald Trump is going to win. He's going to join us next and explain his reasoning.
In breaking news from the campaign trail, Kim Kardashian has finally decided who she's going to vote for. We've had Fox team coverage on this over the past few days. Is it Donald Trump? Is it Hillary Clinton? The big decision is straight ahead.
A game changer.
44 days, get out your abacus, 2 months away from Election Day, and Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are neck and neck in the national polls. But that hasn't stopped one man from predicting that Trump is heading towards a big win in November. Alan Lichtman, a professor of history at the American University and author of Predicting the Next President. He's correctly predicted the outcomes of the last 8 presidential elections, and he joins us now. Alan, nice to see you this morning. So you don't care about the polls that everyone else gets caught up in. You're looking at history for indicators. What do you see?
Well, my system is 13 true-false questions where an answer of true always favors the re-election of the party in power. It's based on the retrospective study of every election from the election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860 to Ronald Reagan in 1980, and it's based on the theory that elections are primarily referenda on the party holding the White House. So I look at the big picture, the economy,
Right.
foreign policy, third parties. And the way it works, if the party in power has 6 of these 13 going against it, that's the Democrats now, they're predicted losers, and by my system, the Democrats have 6 negative factors against them.
Wow, here are the negative ones. Incumbent party mandate, nomination contest, so obviously Hillary Clinton had to fight Bernie Sanders, a third-party challenge, you have Jill Stein maybe taking some of the votes away from her, policy change, foreign military success, that's been a problem for her, and the incumbent charisma also. Now, what about some false keys for Hillary? Let's talk about the incumbent party mandate. Why is that a problem for her?
Well, that's the midterm elections, kind of a referendum on the party holding the White House, and the Democrats got wiped out in 2014. It's not her. Remember, we're talking about a referendum on the performance and strength of the party holding the White House. It doesn't necessarily turn on the individual candidates. And of course, in Donald Trump, you have such a precedent-breaking candidate.
Right.
You know, he said so many things that would drive other candidates out of the race that maybe he'll break the pattern of history and snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, despite my system.
Key number 3, you say, is incumbency. Of course, the sitting president is not running. Why is that a problem for her?
Well, it's always better to have a sitting president running. A sitting president has a record. He has a gravitas. That's one factor that always counts against the party holding the White House. It's harder to win an open seat than to see an incumbent get reelected.
You say key number 7 I want to jump to. No major policy change in Obama's second term like the Affordable Care Act. Why is that a problem for her?
Well, it's always good if you're the party holding the White House to have something to run on, to have major accomplishments. Right now, because of the gridlock, she's kind of coming up a bit empty on any major domestic policy initiative.
The third party, we haven't talked much about this. You know, we have the Gary Johnson key in all of this. You say key number 4. What about the third party variable for Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, everybody's missed that. It's very important. Third parties are bad news for the party holding the White House. And my threshold there is 5% or more, which looks like Gary Johnson is going to get. But the point is, people would be throwing their vote away by voting for Gary Johnson. That's not the choice. It's Clinton versus Trump. There are no moral victories in politics. So whether you believe in Clinton or Trump, you should make the major party choice. There's no such thing as a moral victory in presidential politics.
Alan Lichtman looking at history, which is probably a good indicator instead of all of these polls, to pick a Trump victory in November. Alan, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Great to be here.
Coming up here on the show, Ted Cruz speaking out about endorsing Donald Trump. Did Trump apologize for the insults during the primaries? Plus, will Clinton and Trump behave on the debate stage? What the candidates can learn from their own past debate performances. We're rolling out the tapes. Look.
Crooked Hillary Clinton.
Crooked Hillary. She's crooked Hillary. Let's face it. She's crooked Hillary.
About 25 minutes after the hour, back with some quick headlines. A brand new bombshell in Brangelina's dramatic divorce. Experts now saying the FBI likely won't get involved in the couple's split following child abuse allegations. And this after it was reported the Department of Children and Family Services questioned Brad Pitt for an alleged physical confrontation with his son Maddox on the family's private plane. And Pippa Middleton can now get some royal beauty rest. A hacker accused of stealing thousands of personal pictures from her iCloud is now under arrest and facing charges. Police say the man tried to sell images of Pippa's fiance as well as pictures of her sister, the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton. Yeah. She's doing okay, though.
Important story to come out of the UK. Really.
Well, do you remember this?
It's Hillary Clinton's first debate back when she was running for the Senate from the state of New York. Mid-response, opponent Rick Lazio, the former congressman, walked over to her podium and demanded she sign a pledge against soft money. Well, it backfired. He was called a sexist, and it became a major don't in debate history. So what else should Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump learn from past debates?
That brings back some memories, doesn't it? Well, here to break it down, Scott Jennings, former special assistant to President George W. Bush. Scott has also been involved in debate prep for Senate, congressional, and gubernatorial candidates and joins us now. Good morning, sir. Good to see you.
Welcome back.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right, so let's start with the do's and don'ts for Hillary Clinton. What should she do? What should she not do?
Well, I know a lot of folks have given Hillary Clinton the advice to lay back, but I'm not sure that's good advice for her. I think this is a campaign in search of a message and a reason for being right now. And so I think Hillary Clinton needs to come out of the gate and show people why she's in this race. Because I think right now, if you look at some of the national polling, she's having a hard time convincing people that she's in this race for any good reason at all. We've got a tied race nationally, and her people need a message right now. And if she lays back, I think that could be a bad night for her.
So we have a soundbite from February 11th. This is her attacking with reason. Take a listen.
I do not believe a vote in 2002 is a plan to defeat ISIS in 2016. It's very important we focus on the threats we face today. We all remember.
So more of that.
Yeah, she's going to have to deal with this because Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump essentially have the same position, which is they oppose the Iraq war from the beginning. And so I'm sure she's going to hear that Monday night and in future debates. She's going to have to come out and be ready for this Iraq war question because Trump's doubling down on it this weekend. I mean, he is saying, I'm against this from the beginning. It's going to be a core message for him, I'm certain. And so she's going to have to come out and defend it hard. It's going to be a big topic given the terrorism rising in the importance.
And on that point, you say that she should not be too careful when describing terrorism. Let's play a little bit of that.
I think that you can talk about Islamists who clearly are also jihadists, but I think it's not particularly helpful to make the case. We are at war with violent extremism. We are at war with people who use their religion for purposes of power and oppression. And yes, we are at war with those people, but I don't want us to be painting with too broad a brush.
That's a big don't, huh?
If she loses this race, a big reason will be because during the Obama years, the Democratic Party has failed to define radical Islamic terrorism for exactly what it is. Being careful and lawyerly and dancing around the edges of this topic, I think, has really hurt the Democratic Party and anyone associated with Obama, and especially as Secretary of State. And so she's going to have to come out and punch hard on that topic. We know Donald Trump will, but most people know who we're up against. They know what we're fighting. It's in the news. It's happening in New York City and other places on American soil. Failure to acknowledge that would be a major problem.
So Trump's opponents, the Democratic Party, the Republican establishment, the media, have such contempt for him that they never pause to learn from him. You say that they should for moments like this.
If you don't get an actual check from the Mexican government for $8 or $10 or $12 billion, whatever it will cost, how are you going to make them pay for the wall?
I will. And the wall just got 10 feet taller, believe me. It's got 10 feet taller.
Interesting. So everyone, you know, the New York Times scoffed at that. But what can Hillary learn from that response?
Well, I think she needs to learn that Donald Trump is committed on this issue. And when you're running for president of the United States, you have to be committed on the reasons you're running. And he's running on this immigration issue.
Right.
He's not backing down from it. And I think if I were him, I would stay with it. It's clearly keeping him in the race. If he were to sort of try to roll that back now in the context of a presidential debate that's going to be the most watched event in presidential history, I think it would make him look weak. And so Donald Trump's running on a message. We know why he's in the race. I think she needs to understand he's going to come on that topic and stay with it, and I would advise him to do so.
So theme's more important than the details.
And it's not just about the policy. It's about the attitude. It's about, I am not going to back down from having a fire to solve this problem. And that's what she lacks. What problem is she trying to solve?
Well, will that fire include insults? We saw that during the primary debate, of course. Little Marco and Crooked Hillary and on and on and on. Will it look like this on Monday Night Watch?
I never attacked him on his look, and believe me, there's plenty of subject matter right there. With Jeb's attitude, we will never be great again.
The single biggest liar. You probably are worse than Jeb Bush.
Well, this guy's a choke artist, and this guy's a liar.
Don't worry about it, little Marco.
Well, that liar is now supporting him. So are we going to see any of that on Monday night? Would that be smart for him?
He would not be smart for him. And you showed the Lazio Clinton clip at the top. I think it would be wise for her to try to bait him into some bullying moment. We see her image ratings falling. People don't like her. She's having a hard time connecting. One way to make people feel sorry for her would be to bait him into a bullying moment. He needs to not do that. It was fine when you're bullying other candidates in the context of a Republican primary, but right now we're down to talking to the last few independents who may be making up their mind. I don't think they're looking for bullying moments. They're looking to see if he embodies the image of a president.
Right.
And that's what he's trying to portray on Monday nights. So I would stay away from that.
But, you know, Hillary Clinton can lose her cool as well. So they both have to be careful with that.
And she did with Bernie, and she has in 2008. She has a history of that, no question.
Scott, great to see you this morning. Good stuff.
Thank you.
We'll dive into more of this a little bit later in the show. All right, still ahead. Ted Cruz opening up about his endorsement of Donald Trump. Did an apology from Trump seal the deal? What Cruz said next.
Plus, brand new polls out this morning showing Trump and Hillary Clinton neck and neck ahead of the debate tomorrow night. So which candidate has the most to lose? Our political panel will break it all down, and they're sitting right there. It's next.
Good morning. Right now, we're only one day away from the first presidential debate. Can you believe it? Both candidates are doing what they can to get ready. Fox News senior political correspondent Mike Emanuel is live in Westchester County, New York, near Hillary Clinton's Chappaqua home, with more on how she's prepping. Mike, nice to see you this morning.
Thank you. Great to be with you. Good morning. Today is expected to be a critical day of debate prep ahead of the huge Monday night matchup between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump at Hofstra University on Long Island. Clinton's been doing a lot of studying, also some rehearsals for the debate at an area hotel, Westchester area hotel. She's spent a lot of time and energy in preparation with her aides, making the case the three presidential debates will be the biggest events in this campaign with massive audiences. Sources confirmed to Fox Clinton's longtime aide from her time as a senator and as Secretary of State, Philippe Rines, is playing the role of Donald Trump. A Democrat familiar with her debate prep told me Rines does his verbal combat at a very high level. And because he's been a trusted insider, he can really push her buttons to test her reactions ahead of the debate. Clinton's expected to take some time today to sit down with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is in New York this weekend. She recently had high-profile meetings with leaders from Japan, Ukraine, and Egypt. Those meetings with world leaders allow both Clinton and Trump the opportunity to further audition with the American people to be our next president. Clinton was expected to visit Charlotte today following the violent protests there. But bottom line, after the mayor there said it was not a good time for a visit, she did call into African-American pastors there last night. Tucker?
Mike Tobin in Chappaqua. Thanks a lot, Mike. Why do I call you Mike Tobin? You're Mike Emanuel. Even better. Well, as Hillary continues her lengthy rest at home, new polls show that she and Donald Trump are a statistical dead heat before the debates. He might be up a little bit. We've got a terrific political panel this morning. Republican strategist John Burnett, author of All In Together, Lauren Chivy, and Rasmussen Group President Scott Rasmussen. Great to see you all.
Great to see you all.
So, Scott, I'll start with you. She is losing in a couple of states that the president won twice. Those would include Ohio.
Well, Ohio is a big one.
Iowa,
right.
and others. So why is she not losing?
Because Donald Trump needs to win every state Mitt Romney won, plus pick up 64 electoral college votes. If he gets Florida, which is pretty much of a toss-up, and Ohio, that gets him to 253, still 17 short. If he picks up Nevada and Iowa, still a little bit short. He needs one more state. He needs something else to put him over the top. What is surprising about this is those numbers say it is very close heading into this debate. And Tucker, you and I have talked before. I've spent 2 decades telling people debates never matter that much. This one could really matter.
Well, it seems like it would matter to her, Lauren. I mean, she's not only is she basically the incumbent, she's the most famous woman in the world, one of the richest, the most admired by lots of polls. No, for real. She's running against a guy who was selling vodka a year ago. She thinks she's so superior to him. She should be killing him, right?
Well, I think if at the end of the day, when we actually count up the media hours and the free press that Donald Trump has gotten since the beginning of this campaign, you're right. She does have to sell herself tomorrow, in part because he has so totally dominated the news cycle. Every time he sneezes or says anything inappropriate or shocking, we cover it 24/7. And that has been an enormous challenge and disadvantage. Even with a narrative, it would be hard for any other candidate to get their voice in.
So what would she say if she got more media coverage? What would be her message?
Well, I think, look, she's actually, and has from the beginning, tried to actually focus on policy solutions and has tried to orient
this.
What's
the message of the campaign?
The message of the campaign is we need to continue investing in infrastructure in America and building good jobs and raising the minimum wage and ensuring that the most vulnerable.
Yeah, that's
I'm moving. Sorry, did that just sound like this to you?
It doesn't add up to anything. That's the problem.
It adds up to years and years of continued economic growth, which we've had over the last 8 years, despite the constant trope on this network that we have a disastrous, failing economy. We've come a long way in 8 years, and we need to continue building on that momentum.
Everything is fine campaign.
Everything is fine.
And by the way, if it's not fine, you're just believing the right-wing New York Times. Is that a good campaign?
That's a false narrative, and it's not reality for all American voters.
Of course,
the thing is that she's been hiding and seeking the White House ever since the convention. That's not a good strategy. As far as Donald Trump going into this debate, he needs to focus. He needs to realize who he is. He's a businessman. He needs to focus on the numbers. He should focus on the 20% of undecided voters, because that's what he needs, to Scott's point, to shift certain elections in some of these swing states.
Okay. She's going to go after him on the business.
So
the business is not the strength that he likes to play.
One thing I've noticed, Scott, from the very beginning is that everyone who runs against Trump goes insane by the end. And you saw it with Ted Cruz, you saw it with Jeb Bush, and now you're seeing it, I think you are, with Hillary Clinton. And I mean this with real compassion, but here it is. Watch.
Now, having said all this, why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask? Well, the choice for working families has never been clearer. I need your help to get Donald Trump's record out to everybody. Nobody should be fooled.
All right, Scott, this raises a few interesting questions. One of them is she being driven off the deep end because she doesn't understand why people would support Trump?
Well, I do think there's an underlying attitude within the Clinton campaign that this should not be a close election, that she is clearly the superior candidate, and Donald Trump doesn't even belong in the race. And I think that's also their weakness. They can't imagine how anybody would vote against her. And there's a lot of reasons that people have for voting against Hillary Clinton. Some of them are partisan, some to do with her. That blind spot is the reason that she sometimes gets a little bit crazy.
So, Lauren, she's claiming sexism here. How can you claim to be the toughest person in the world and be the victim of sexism simultaneously?
Well, I think, first of all, I think lots of women in America absolutely relate to that because she's in the most exposed position of any woman in the history of American politics. There absolutely has been a double standard, and there always will be. I personally would like to see her not focus on that. I don't think it helps her.
She's worth $250 million. Is she really a victim?
It's not about being a victim. It's about the narrative.
Well, you said she's a victim of sexism.
No, that doesn't make her. I didn't say that she is a victim. I said that any woman who runs for office, any woman who puts themselves out there, absolutely deals with a double standard in the media, which she deals with every single day. We continue to talk about why isn't she smiling? Why isn't she nice? We never say that about male candidates, and that's the reality. That's not about her. You say why isn't she smiling?
I'm sorry. Speaking of double standards, you're about to get shafted because I've been told we have to go. I'm really sorry.
Look, I'll close on this. If Hillary's not yelling, she's crying. She needs to get over it and get on message.
I don't think Lauren agrees. Great to see you all.
Good to see you.
We're going to go back to the great Abby Huntsman.
Thank you, Tucker. We do begin with a Fox News alert. 3 gunmen opened fire, wounding 8 people in Baltimore overnight. The youngest victim, a 3-year-old girl. Police say the shooting was a planned attack and a retaliation for a deadly Labor Day weekend shooting. The suspects are on the run at this hour. All victims are expected to be okay. And the shooting adding to the chaos in Baltimore. The city saw a 63% spike in homicides last year alone. Well, Ted Cruz finally bit the bullet and endorsed Donald Trump, but he says the decision was, quote, agonizing.
I'm not the only voter in the state or in the country who is agonized about what's the right thing to do in this election.
The Texas senator said he decided to keep his promise and support the Republican nominee no matter who it was. Well, in celebration of their distillery's 150th anniversary, Jack Daniel's has hidden 150 barrels of whiskey straight from Lynchburg, Tennessee, all around the world in a giant scavenger hunt. And guess where one ended up? Right here on the Fox and Friends Plaza. Jack Daniel's Facebook page has clues for where to find the barrels, and each one contains a prize like this one-of-a-kind bar kit or a special 150th anniversary bottle of Jack.
I took it home.
You have to go find that. You stole it already?
Yeah, sorry.
All right, well, coming up, Donald Trump took a major dive in the polls after his comments about a Gold Star family. But what can he do to win them back? A Gold Star mother, she is joining us next. Welcome back. So in 2006, Mark Allen Lee became the first Navy SEAL killed in Iraq after he stood in the line of fire to draw attention away from his fellow Navy SEALs. And because today is Gold Star Mother's Day, we honor his mom, Debbie Lee, and all the moms whose sons and daughters have given the ultimate sacrifice to protect our freedoms. Debbie, who is also the CEO and founder of America's Mighty Warriors, joins us now. Good to see you, Debbie. Good morning to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great day to be here to let all the other Gold Star families, mothers, siblings, parents, know we'll never forget the sacrifices their loved ones have made.
So for
they've
those
given their very best for this nation, and we won't ever forget.
Absolutely. For those that don't know about the Gold Star Moms Day, which is today, talk to us about that means for so many mothers, including you.
Well, I think it's one of those days specifically that we've set aside as a nation to honor and remember those mothers who birthed amazing heroes who gave their lives for this country. And a lot of people don't even know what a Gold Star family member is. And that's someone whose loved one died in combat or as a result of combat. And those are those families whose loved one gave dearly for the freedoms that we enjoy each and every day in America. And as you said, my son Mark was the first Navy SEAL that was killed in Iraq. Stood out in the direct line of fire 3 times that day, willingly gave his life to defend his teammates and for the freedoms that we enjoy each and every day. And I started America's Mighty Warriors to his amazing last letter home that I would encourage all of our listeners to read that. It's at our website at americasmightywarriors.org. And he talks about amazing things in there. But That letter literally has changed millions and millions of lives around the world, and I was so blessed to be his mother. And it was a gift to me that we had him for 28 years, and you know, we just passed the 10-year mark of Mark's death. And I'll tell you what, you never get over the loss of a child, but you learn ways to manage, you learn ways to cope. And for me as a mom, I wanted to make sure that the other moms, the other siblings, the other widows, the children knew that we wouldn't ever forget their sacrifice. And so that's one of the programs that we do at America's Mighty Warriors.
And it's so
is
important
that we make sure those families are taken care of.
Absolutely, and you talk so much about the family. You know, we talk a lot about the military, but the sacrifices the families have to make and the mothers, it's just so important to also be reminded of, and you're doing such great work on that, so we thank you for that. But also the election going on, that's got to mean a lot to you as well personally. The first big debate is tomorrow night. What are you hoping to hear from both candidates?
Well, I think it's important for military family members, for other Gold Star family members to know that we have a commander-in-chief that has the back of our troops, that when we ask them to go into combat, that we equip them with what they need, that they know that they won't be abandoned over there, that we will be there for them come hell or high water, and that when they come home, same thing, we'll make sure that they're taken care of, that if they have issues with the VA, we resolve those. We have a VA that's strong, that when our men and women go in there, they're taken care of immediately, that the family members know that when their loved ones are deployed, we're there for them. And that any of the issues they have when they come back home, we have, our troops are having problems with PTS, with TBI. We've got 22 suicides a day. Right. And we need to make sure that we, our best, they're giving their best for us, so we need to give our best for them and make sure they're taken care of.
Debbie Lee, thanks so much for being here. It is a message that we all need to hear. We appreciate it.
You bet. And there's one more thing. We have a special for our first 3 Gold Star family members who reach out to us. We're offering an all-expense trip to the Heroes Hope home in Arizona. We'll be paying for airfare, rental car, and for the whole time they're here.
It's wonderful. I want to tell people where to go, because they can go to if we can pull that back up, so I can give people the mightywarriors.org. You can go there and you can get all the information that you need. Debbie Lee, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, as Hillary Clinton hunkers down, her surrogates are crying sexism before the debate even begins, claiming she'll face tough questions because she's a woman. Didn't she use a similar strategy to win her Senate seat? That is next.
All right, with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump set to face off for the very first time at Hofstra University tomorrow night, it seems like a fitting time to test our presidential debate knowledge.
Here to put our debate IQ to the test is Kenneth Davis, the author of the new book, In the Shadow of Liberty, and he joins us now. I'm already feeling nervous about this situation.
Good morning, Kenneth.
If you're feeling nervous, just imagine how they're feeling. So, quickly to the questions. Which candidate looked at his wristwatch very famously during a presidential debate? Hubert Humphrey, George W. Bush, or George H.W. Bush?
The answer, of course,
famously, it is George H.W. Bush.
And what a handsome wristwatch it was.
It was a beautiful wristwatch. The problem was that was the image that people had, that George H.W. Bush looked like he had a car waiting for him and he couldn't wait to get out of there.
And Bill Clinton
board. It's sometimes all about the look of things. Okay. Question 2. Who had a 5 o'clock shadow and had gotten out of the hospital prior to his presidential debate? Was it Franklin D. Roosevelt, Richard Nixon, or Dwight D. Eisenhower? B is correct. It was Richard Nixon. Very, very famously, he looked terrible. John F. Kennedy, on the other hand, in 1960 was rested, tanned, ready. Nixon really paid the price of the idea that this was the television era.
Why not just shave?
Well,
it's a simple thing.
He didn't want makeup, too, right?
Well, they put on something called lazy shave, this kind of pasty, which ended up making him look worse. Richard Daley, the mayor of Chicago, famously said at the time, he looks like he's already embalmed.
Was that the first televised debate?
That was the first nationally televised debate and set the standard for a long time. 66 million people watched that night. Wow. It was quite extraordinary.
Wow.
Didn't really change the ultimate outcome, but certainly helped Kennedy in the beginning to get recognized more by the American public, which knew Nixon. He had been vice president for 8 years.
All right, so last question.
What was the method of introducing the country to candidates before the age of television broadcast? The Pony Express, front porch campaigning, or soapboxes in public parks?
B.
You're all right. Again, we're going to have to come up with a tiebreaker here. Yeah, so the front porch campaign with people would actually sit, the presidential candidates would sit on the front porch in a rocker. Journalists would come to them, ask questions. There was no campaigning. It didn't seem gentlemanly. And so this is all very,
You know why it didn't seem gentlemanly? Because it's not.
Because it's not.
Kenneth, great to see you this morning. More Fox and Friends coming back.
See you soon. Good morning to you. It is Sunday, September 25th. I'm Abby Huntsman. This is a Fox News alert. It looked like a zombie. The manhunt is over for the person who gunned down 5 people at a Washington mall. But this morning, the motive is still a mystery. Why authorities are not ruling out terror.
And then on the eve of the first presidential debate between Trump and Hillary, that's tomorrow, a brand new poll shows a dead heat with maybe Trump up a little bit. But guess what? It's an old cheat who just stole the headlines. Bill's ex-girlfriend could be there. Whoa! Buckle your seatbelt, ladies and gentlemen. Details ahead.
And as Hillary Clinton hunkers down, her surrogates are crying sexism before the debate even begins, claiming that she'll face tough questions because, well, she's a woman. Didn't she use a similar strategy to win her Senate seat against Rick Lazio? Fox and Friends Hour 2 starts right now.
There she is.
A little Europe to get your morning started with the final countdown at Hofstra University. We're trying to figure out which of these podiums would be Hillary Clinton's. We do know that they've adjusted the podium because she's, 5'4", he's 6'2". So we're trying to think, I think she'll probably be at the left podium.
And they're not allowing her to have a stool to step on.
So what's missing from that debate arena right now? If you guessed Jennifer Flowers, you're right. She could be there tomorrow.
She could be on the front row.
Donald Trump saying by Twitter he might invite Jennifer Flowers, and the New York Post, America's greatest newspaper, summing it up this way: cheat shot. There she is, Bill Clinton's old girlfriend. She could be coming.
And they also have endless shrimp, by the way.
They do. There's some coupons.
Let's keep some of
Good
these.
morning. We're glad to see you this morning. Abby Huntsman on the couch.
Good to be
Nice
here.
To see you. All right, Donald Trump is in full warm-up mode. Just one day from perhaps the biggest day of his life.
And this is brand new. Polls show the race at a virtual tie.
Fox News senior national correspondent John Roberts is outside Trump Tower here in New York with a preview of the Battle of Hofstra. John, good morning.
Abby, Clayton, Tucker, good morning to you. Donald Trump's got another, I won't say full day of debate prep ahead of him, but he will be doing a number of hours of debate prep today. At the same time as the new ABC News Washington Post poll shows, his numbers dramatically improving nationwide. Take a look at this. Among likely voters, Hillary Clinton leads him now by just 2 points. That's well within the margin of error. Basically amounts to a dead heat, 46 to 44. Among registered voters, the broader pool of voters, they're dead even at 41 points apiece. Donald Trump hasn't been engaging in the typical type of debate preparation with mock debates and a murder board, that type of thing, more along the lines of just kind of going over some ideas, making sure that he's going to be comfortable with the format, some zingers to throw at Hillary Clinton, and also continuing to be out on the campaign trail when most other candidates would be back home studying. Big rally last night in Roanoke, Virginia, in which Donald Trump congratulated the Smithsonian on the opening of the new African American Museum, even though he was not invited to that, and then said this about African American voters.
African Americans have given so much to our nation and sacrificed so much for this nation. Many African Americans are succeeding so greatly in our country, and I will make sure their success is protected and supported. At the same time, too many African Americans have been left behind and trapped in poverty. I will fight to make sure every single African American child in this country is fully included in the American dream.
Donald Trump will be taking some time away from debate preparation today to talk Israel. He'll be meeting with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu also meeting today with Hillary Clinton. According to the Jerusalem Post, Netanyahu will ask both candidates to oppose any move in the future by the United Nations to impose a settlement on Israel. This is some idea in Israel that President Obama on the way out may try to do something along those lines, rally support for that at the United Nations. Hey, just before we go, you talk about Donald Trump not doing typical debate preparation. I remember being at the Al Gore debate camp at the Colony Resort on Longboat Key near Sarasota back in 2000. 3 or 4 days of intense debate preparation, and a lot of people say that very first debate against George Bush, where he thought he would basically use Bush as a mop to wipe the debate floor, might have actually cost Gore the election. Remember the heavy sighing, Tucker, and all of that?
I never will
so
forget
you
it.
can't over-prepare for these things.
Naomi Wolf got in his head with all that alpha male stuff, and he got in Bush's face, and that was bizarre.
Yeah, we're going to show you some video of that in just a moment, because that ended up being on Saturday Night Live. The sighing, remember? They mocked it the next day.
It's like an obscene phone caller.
John, thank you.
Thanks, John.
John, good to see you.
We're going to walk through some of those unforced errors in presidential debate history. We'll go through a few of those in a moment. But there might be one bizarre moment tomorrow night. That is if this woman takes up Donald Trump on his offer to have her sit in the front row of the debate. That woman, Jennifer Flowers, Bill Clinton's ex-lover. Donald Trump took to Twitter yesterday basically saying, look, if Mark Cuban is going to be sitting in the front row, then you know what? I'm just going to invite Jennifer Flowers to show up to the debate.
And she's responded saying that she's going to take him up on the offer. Tucker's not convinced that she's actually going to show up. But could you imagine if she did, though? That might be one of the most awkward situations. You have Hillary Clinton staring straight down at her, sitting on the front row, trying to talk about policy and terrorism and the economy. That's just an awkward situation.
It would be the most hilarious moment in any debate. I don't think they're going to do it. I think Trump wants to show that he's a serious guy, or serious enough, reaching the sanity threshold. And so I don't think he'll do this. But I think it's legitimate to ask why a woman who claims to speak for all women and be on the side of women and is the uber feminist attacked all these women whose only crime was having affairs with her husband. Like, why is it a feminist thing to attack the other woman? It's not.
And he's been defending himself. He was, lambasting Mark Cuban over this whole thing, and Mark Cuban basically calling, saying, I'm a real billionaire. Let's see your tax returns. Let's see your tax returns. And so this is the fight back here.
Battle of the billionaires. Meanwhile, though, Hillary is hunkering down in Chappaqua as some of her surrogates, they're crying sexism before the debate even begins, which is probably a bad place to start.
Well, so what's this all about, right? They're basically they've been leaking things to the press, basically saying, look, Hillary Clinton is going to be up there. She's going to have to answer questions that no man would have to answer. That she's going to have to face all of these tough questions in a way that most men on a debate stage would not have to face.
It's ludicrous. They're working the refs, of course. They're trying to soften up any kind of opposition. Not that there's any opposition in the press to electing Hillary. They're all working for her. But I find this a ludicrous attack, A, because how can a woman who's worth $250 million and is the most famous and powerful woman in the world be a victim? And B, because it cuts against the one good thing about Hillary. The one thing I actually like about Hillary, she's pretty tough. She spent like 11 hours in front of the Benghazi committee. I think she lied a lot, but she held it together. And now she's saying, oh, poor me, they're being mean to me because I'm a woman. Well, I think you can't be tough and a victim.
Well, we're seeing this side from both sides, though, right? So on the Hillary side, you're seeing, we don't want tough questions, right? This is going to be tough. She's a woman, so there's a double standard. And then on the Trump side, to be fair, there's spin coming from that side, which is, look, this is his first debate, one-on-one. He's never had a one-on-one debate before. Sean Spicer sort of playing down expectations.
Right, totally.
Right.
But they did that with Bush, too. Remember? They were playing down George W. Bush. They're like, look, Al Gore's a great debater. He's probably not going to do as well.
And Governor Bush can't really speak English, so,
you know what I will say about this is Donald Trump is going to have to be careful about personal insults when it comes to Hillary Clinton, because he has gotten himself in some trouble. You remember Michelle Bachmann in one of those debates where he got talking about her face and her looks, and it just became an awkward situation where you have women coming out saying that's just not a place you want to go. You never look good when you go down that road.
I think that's true, and there is, in fact, a double standard, and it applies to the man. You can be totally savage. You can call him Little Marco, but if you're seen as dismissive that way to Hillary or mocked her appearance, and I don't think you should mock her appearance, by the way, at all. But, I mean, you've seen it before. You saw it with Clayton Williams running in Texas for governor against Ann Richards in 1990. You saw it with Rick Lazio running against Hillary 10 years later. Yeah, if you seem too aggressive with the woman, you lose.
So here it is. Rick Lazio, Tucker was just talking about. Speaking of, our producers are amazing. Watch this. This was on the debate stage when Rick Lazio basically walked across the stage and invaded her privacy.
Let's sign it. This is the New York Freedom from Soft Money Pact. I signed it. We can both sit down together.
Mr. Clinton, you want to respond?
Well, yes, I certainly do. You know, I admire that. That was a wonderful performance, and
Well, why don't you sign it?
And you did it very well.
I'm not asking you to admire it. I'm asking you to sign it.
Well, I would be happy to when you give me the signed letters.
Right here.
Would you give
right
me?
here. Sign it right now.
Well, we'll shake on this.
No, I want your signature because I think that everybody wants to see you signing something that you said you were for.
It was a big mistake for him. I mean, it backfired big time.
Well, not in the moment, though. When you watch that, a lot of people were saying that was a strong moment for him. It was later on that it was a spin, basically, from her campaign saying that it was sexist. But you watch that back and you think, had it been a guy there, would it have been any different?
Well, the real question is, can a Republican win statewide in New York? And the answer is no.
Well,
so, I mean, he could have done anything. He could have ascended into heaven in the middle of the debate and still lost.
I think Anthony Weiner might win before Republicans who represented New York.
Yeah. Well, let us know your thoughts. What do you want to see tomorrow night at the debate? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. We've got a great thread going on our Facebook page right now, FF Weekend. So we'll check in on that a little bit.
Yeah, we want to hear from you. We also have some other headlines, though, to get to this morning. We start with a Fox News alert. A desperate manhunt is over as a suspected killer is in custody. Police arresting Arkin Seaton, you can see him there, who they say shot and killed 5 people in a Washington State mall. He was taken into custody in his hometown of Oak Harbor, about 30 miles southwest of Burlington, where the shooting happened. Well, Seaton is an immigrant from Turkey, despite initially being identified as Hispanic by authorities. There are reports he may have been mentally ill with a rap sheet, including accusations of assault and drunk driving. Terrorism is not being ruled out as a motive. And chaos erupting in Charlotte for a 5th straight night following the shooting death of Keith Lamont Scott. And this as police have just released body and dash cam footage giving new insight into how it all unfolded. We want to warn you, though, these videos are graphic. Officers attempting to smash a Defiant Scott's passenger window. He finally gets out, walking backwards. Officers ordering Scott to drop a gun before opening fire. And police also releasing these pictures from the scene showing a handgun, an ankle holster, and a marijuana blunt. His wife still, though, insisting he had a book on him, not a gun. And evacuations are underway right now as the Midwest braces for more record-breaking flooding. Rain, swollen rivers and creeks in parts of Iowa and Wisconsin, drowning streets and destroying homes. The severe flooding already killing 2 people, and it's only going to get worse. The Cedar River expected to overflow its banks tomorrow. And Kim Kardashian, she says she is with Hillary after all. The reality TV star confirming her support after she said she was on the fence about it and possibly voting for Donald Trump. She released a statement saying, quote, "I found that without a doubt I stand with Hillary. I'm with her. I believe Hillary will best represent our country and is the most qualified for the job." And there you have it. We've been waiting for 24 hours now to figure out what she was going to decide.
Got to the bottom of that, thankfully.
We will find out. Coming up, Hillary Clinton has a pretty good question. Watch this.
Now, having said all this, why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Well, that's a great question. We'll shout it at you in just a minute. Joe Trippi here to debate it.
And speaking of Hillary, remember her old BlackBerry destroyed by a hammer? Well, new emails reveal that's not the only way her devices were destroyed. It's coming up next. Hacksaw.
Just 44 days until the election, Hillary Clinton cannot understand why she isn't crushing Donald Trump in the polls. Watch her befuddlement.
50 points ahead, you might ask. I need your help to get Donald Trump's record out to everybody. Nobody should be fooled.
With only a 3-point lead in the latest RCP average, shouldn't the question be, why isn't she down 50 points? Flip it around. Fox News contributor, former campaign manager for Howard Dean, our old friend Joe Trippi joins us live. Joe, it's great to see you.
Good to be with you.
So she shares in her confusion with Paul Krugman and Morning Joe and the entire Republican establishment in D.C. And this is not an endorsement of Trump, but they don't understand why anyone would support Trump. And so it's driving them crazy.
Well, I mean, that may be true, but the fact is, look, Reagan only won by 18 points. I mean, you know,
in 84.
50, this whole where's 50 points thing is crazy.
Yes.
The reality is, Obama won by 3.9% in 2012. So this is going to be closer than that, I think. Maybe 2 points either way. Look, candidates say stuff like this, when particularly, this was to the labor union, particularly to get their, I'm not winning by enough, I need your help, I need your money, I need you to get out there.
Right. This did seem a little heartfelt. Maybe it was the problem she had with volume.
It was like sarcastic, maybe.
But, and I think there's probably some sarcasm, too. But the numbers, I mean, look, she's losing big time in Iowa. She's losing in Ohio. She's within the margin in Florida. Pennsylvania is tightening. I mean, the direction, the momentum is all moving against her, it feels like right now.
No, I think it's just the race closing to where it was going to close after the conventions. And this is going to be a 2-point race. I think she, because of the electoral advantage that she has, she can lose Florida and Ohio and many of the swing states, in fact, almost all of them. In fact, she can lose all the swing states as long as she holds Pennsylvania and she's still the president. So I think it's still an uphill battle for Trump right now. Clearly, he's closing. That's clear. But when you really look underneath in most of these swing states, she still holds the advantage because of the number of them. And because she only has to win 1 or 2 of them, he has to win almost all of them.
If fundamentally, though, if 65% of voters say they think the country's on the wrong track, and I think that's about the number, and she's running as a third term for President Obama, in effect as the incumbent, and he's running as the insurgent change candidate, I mean, why is the momentum on his side?
Well, I mean, one, the momentum, the reason things are on his side is because it is a change election. Right. The reason he's not putting her away is because people don't like the change that his style, his personality, that's a change man, I don't know if I can go there. In fact, a lot of people have decided they're not going there. So, look, I think that there are plenty of people who would be, I think, have an advantage, be ahead of her right now. I mean, Rubio, other potential nominees. But once GOP nominated Trump.
So you're saying the Republicans would have been better off offering a pallid imitation of Hillary's platform rather than a distinct.
Well, that's a good way of putting it. But I think,
like, where's the evidence that there was ever a groundswell of support for kind of institutional Republican?
I mean, well, I'm not talking about the ideology so much as the personality.
Right.
I mean, I think that's what I'm saying. I think Rubio would have appealed. There were candidates who could have appealed to a broader spectrum of the electorate, to a more diverse electorate than Trump does. That's all.
And last question: do you know anybody in Washington who's sincerely thinking through, like, what are the election lessons? What is the electorate trying to tell us in D.C.? What should we be learning? I haven't met anyone who's really trying to think that through. Have you?
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people are, because I think there's, look, everybody with a 10-point plan is on the side of the road somewhere. I mean, if you look at the Republican nomination process, and so, are we going to hot-button candidacies like Trump and Bernie Sanders, for that matter? Is it changing media environment moving us in that direction in the future? In other words, 2020, do you want somebody with a 10-point plan if I'm coaching them, or do you want somebody, hitting hot buttons? It looks like the hot button candidate.
Yeah, telling the truth once in a while. Joe Trippi, great to see you.
Good to see you.
Well, there's no better way to gear up for the Super Bowl of debates than with a movie. Kevin McCarthy is here with his favorite political flicks. There he is. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.
Get off my plane.
Well, we want to welcome you back. Fox News alert now. Late last night, cops in Washington arrested that suspect in that vicious mall massacre which overtook our show yesterday morning as we were following it. But you remember yesterday morning when we were asking the eyewitnesses and the state trooper who was there and who was reporting on this, sort of almost as like as a public service, saying that he's Hispanic. That was the message coming out of the initial statements, that he was Hispanic. Based on this mall photo,
They seem so sure about it. That's what we reported yesterday. And then I think the question this morning is, did political correctness put the public in danger? And it's something that I know, Tucker, you are pretty passionate about.
Well, it turns out he was from Turkey, so he's a Hispanic Turk, which is a new category that we haven't seen before.
Right, in that press
conference. People make mistakes all the time, especially in the heat of a tragedy like this. I just am not surprised anymore to note that all of the mistakes are in the same category, which is, this is not terror. It has nothing to do with Islamic extremism. And by the way, this may not have anything to do with Islamic extremism. We don't know. But that is the point. We don't know. And yet the authorities I think, are becoming ever less trustworthy. They are pushing an agenda, and we're getting to the point where I think most people are like, I'm not sure I believe you. And that's a perilous place to be. You want to be able to believe the authorities in crisis.
Well, and then also, think about the community. This was a small town. And so for a whole afternoon, there was a manhunt for this guy.
Yeah.
And so if the authorities came out right away and said this guy was Hispanic, then you have everyone looking for a Hispanic male in that neighborhood, in that community, when in fact, it turns out he wasn't Hispanic.
That's a great point.
What kind of other people were put in danger, this armed guy running through the neighborhood after he killed 5 people at the mall?
Well, and they're always the ones telling you, we're not going to jump to conclusions, but they did. They always jump to the same kind of conclusions, which is what seems obvious to you is not obvious. You're wrong.
Yeah.
Really?
I think it's a good reminder of just how we have to handle these situations. And to your point, just be careful about it, not identifying it for what it isn't, so people get confused. We do have some other headlines, though, to get to this morning. 3 gunmen, this is a Fox News alert, 3 gunmen opened fire, wounding 8 people in Baltimore overnight. The youngest victim, a 3-year-old girl. Police say the shooting was a planned attack in retaliation for a deadly Labor Day weekend shooting. The suspects are on the run at this hour. All victims are expected to be okay. And the shooting adding to the chaos in Baltimore. The city saw a 63% spike in homicides last year alone. And national anthem protests spreading to high school stadiums. A football team in Oakland, California, staging a die-in, lying on a floor with their hands in the air before a game. Disgraced NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick kneeling beside them. He even gave a speech before the game. Listen.
I had to come support y'all because the same way y'all took a stand and stood with me, I had to come out here and stand with y'all.
NFL Hall of Fame coach Mike Ditka now speaking out against the protests, saying in an interview, quote, if they don't like the country, they don't like our flag, get the hell out. I have no respect for Colin Kaepernick. Wow. And from commander-in-chief to photographer-in-chief, President Obama taking a picture of former President George W. Bush at a family at the National African American History Museum. After several unsuccessful attempts at taking a selfie, Bush tapped Obama on the back, asked him for some help, in which he happily obliged. I love that story.
President Bush for not knowing how to take a selfie. I'm actually impressed with that.
Well, he's like 70. I don't know how to take a selfie. Well, one day before the first debate, and the question is, will there be civility between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton? I don't think that's actually the question.
Maybe, who knows? Until now, it's been all about the insults like this.
Hillary Clinton may be the most corrupt person ever to seek the presidency of the United States.
Donald Trump has built his campaign on prejudice and paranoia.
She lies, and she smears, and she paints decent Americans, you, as racist.
He has no real strategy for creating jobs, just a string of empty promises.
Her decisions spread death, destruction, and terrorism everywhere she touched.
He calls himself the king of debt. And his tax plan sure lives up to that name.
Frankly, if Hillary Clinton were a man, I don't think she'd get 5% of the vote.
It has been ugly. Joining us now to weigh in, Fox News contributor and author of The Way of Serenity, Father Jonathan Morris.
Who has not been writing speeches for either candidate this season. Is that true?
Very inspiring political talk, right?
But it has been ugly. You see those clips. It has gotten nasty. It has gotten personal. You say tomorrow night's debate may be the time to start changing things.
Well, we would like to see that. You know, what's been most disconcerting to me is I think we've seen a change in ethics, really, in this campaign. Not so much in terms of what their values are, but a willingness to say whatever works. We could call it an ethic of efficacy or a pragmatism. Whatever works is fine. And Donald Trump has said this very clearly. Why do I insult people? Because they started it. And I'll do it right. And then with Hillary Clinton, well, obviously she has no problem saying things that simply are not true if she thinks that they work. Pragmatism over truth and goodness. Where are the statesmen? Where are the stateswomen? Or at least a possibility of saying, I'm going to say the truth and I'm going to be kind and good to another person, not without being tough, but I'm going to do it in a good way.
Well, I think you make a really fair point. On the other hand, when I listened to those clips, and it was all uncomfortable, it's like watching your parents argue, But there was truth in what both of them said. I mean, truth is a defense in the end, isn't it?
There's a lot worse things that we could have played that would just not be good for morning television.
Some things are uncomfortable precisely because they are true.
Fair enough. But we think of what Donald Trump, for example, did to all of his competitors. He chose to be mean and belittle them. But then we've seen what Hillary Clinton has done is just simply lie and lie and lie about so many things. And that's where I think we have to say, you know, Hillary Clinton has a real problem right now, and that is that she's lost the trust of the people to say whether what she's doing is true. Donald Trump, at least we can say, well, we get what we see, okay, even if it's not necessarily good. Maybe he can pivot. And maybe he can decide that I'm going to be the adult in the room tomorrow night. We'll see. But I do believe that the whole Judeo-Christian ethic of, hey, I'm going to do the right thing even if it's not good for me, it's been lost in a lot of the rhetoric of this campaign trail.
There are a lot of people that are aching for that, that are wanting to see that change. They're wanting to see more of statesmen-like on that stage.
We don't need saints, but we need people to step up and say, hey, listen, okay, I've messed up. Now I'm going to be a statesman for you. Now I'm going to be a stateswoman for you.
That would be nice.
It would be nice.
See that.
We'll see tomorrow night.
Yeah, we'll be on.
Say a prayer. I know you will be.
Thanks,
Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, Hillary Clinton wants to bring back the death tax.
And Donald Trump has his own financial problem. Not a single Fortune 100 company is donating to him. Wow, will this help or hurt either candidate? The great Charles Payne here to break it down for us next.
"44 days until the presidential election, and while Hillary Clinton pushes to bring back the death tax, Fortune 100 executives aren't showing their support for Trump, though.
So what does this mean for the candidates? Here with some answers, here with all the answers, honestly, is Charles Payne. He's from the Fox News Business Network and a hero to us here on the set. So, Charles, a recent survey by the Wall Street Journal found that out of Fortune 100 CEOs, let me see if I remember the number. Oh, yeah, 0 gave money to Donald Trump. What is going on? They're supporting a candidate who was thinking about picking Elizabeth Warren as her running mate.
Well, I think you could put him, for lack of a better term, 3 baskets. Okay.
Okay, good. I like that. We're back to baskets.
The first group would be the CEOs. These are large multinational companies that do business all around the world. So they are worried about a potential trade war.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. You know, most people watching this show probably watching it on its TV made out of this country, and the reason they bought it was because it was a good TV and a low price. That's how most of these businesses want to operate as well. Secondly, I think the status quo. They do very, very well under a big government where there's a lot of money sloshing around. And thirdly, they know Hillary Clinton. They have great relationships with her. And many of them, by the way, don't believe her anti-business rhetoric. They actually think that she would be a lot friendlier, particularly to Wall Street, than the campaign trail.
They've gotten very rich during the Obama years.
They've gotten very rich, yeah, absolutely. No one's really paid a heavy, on the upper echelon of society, no one's taken a hit.
All right, so let's talk about the death tax as if we're not taxed enough. Here's where Trump stands. He says repeal the death tax. First, 10 million capital gains tax-free. Lower business tax rate from 35% to 15%. Clinton, on the other hand, increase inheritance tax to 65% for largest estates. Lower capital gains exemption to 3.5 million. 2 different visions here.
2 very different visions, and I got to tell you, on the death tax part, the part that bothers me is not the 65% on estates of 500 million. Those folks know how to get around it. Believe me, if you can make 500 million, if you've got that kind of money, you know how to get around it. You know, there's the bill. You know, you can set up a foundation
so nobody's
or whatever.
Pay that.
Right. It's the lower end that I'm concerned about. The lower end that's been moved down to 3.5 million. That's a relatively successful person who opened a business at 20 years old, hauling trash, and by the time they die, they've got 15 trucks in 4 states. You know what I mean? It's your typical American success story. You know, from rags to riches. That won't have the ability to pass it on to the heirs. It's also your farmers. It's new wealth that I'm concerned about that won't be able to generate, long-term sustained wealth for future generations. So if you're already extraordinarily wealthy, fine. But if you're just now ramping it up, if you're just getting a piece of that American pie on the upper echelon, you're actually being punished for it, not rewarded.
What about the criticism against Trump's plan is that it doesn't do enough to address the middle class? But then his point there about the 35 down to 15%. How do you see that shaping up?
Look, that's the business side of. I mean, honestly, if I was in a Trump campaign, I would have small business at 15%, large businesses at 25%. So we have less on the deficit side. I don't like the higher deficits. I want to see debt come down. On the income tax side, Hillary Clinton will argue that hey, Donald Trump is offering successful businesses a lower tax rate than the average middle class family. But ultimately, what the Donald Trump plan is about is reigniting what I call, and some call, the animal spirits of our society. And that's if I make a check and I get to keep substantially more of it, I'm going to spend it. I'm going to put it to work. I'm not going to be so afraid that I put it in a coffee can somewhere and it doesn't circulate in our economy.
Or give it to a good cause.
Or give it to a good cause, but sometimes that good cause is, you know what, put my kids through college. So, there's a big difference between the economy we have right now, where they try to give the illusion of success, and they want what they call the virtuous cycle. So we believe we're doing well, and then we spend money we don't have. How about we just spend the money that we actually earn? Right. That's a pretty good concept.
Yeah, that's a good
thing. It's a pretty good slogan, by the way. Donald Trump, the candidate of animal spirits.
Charles Payne.
You're on something.
Thank you.
It's right there beneath the surface.
Get Charles on the Fox Business Network.
Out there on the surface.
Thanks, Charles.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Well, Bill Maher agrees with Donald Trump on at least one thing: how to stop terrorism.
He said we should do it the way Israel does. And like every once in a while, Donald Trump says something right.
So how does Israel do it? We'll tell you coming up.
And Bernie Sanders is urging his supporters to back Hillary Clinton. Can Trump change their minds during the debate tomorrow? Well, one of Bernie's former supporters says she doesn't think so, and she is going to explain next.
Please, anybody who supports me, do not think that Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form reflects the point of view that I have.
Well, that was Bernie Sanders urging his supporters to not cast their ballot for Donald Trump.
Can Trump change their minds during tomorrow night's debate? Teslin Figaro is the former director of justice and media for the Sanders campaign, with an emphasis on justice, and she joins us now. Teslin, it's great to see you this morning. So a lot of the Bernie people I talked to, if you were to ask them to isolate an issue that upset them, especially the older Bernie supporters, it was trade. And on trade, Trump and Sanders aren't that far apart, at least from my read of it. So why couldn't he make the sale on that point?
Well, it was trade and also political corruption, having a rigged system. Bernie Sanders has been going around begging for votes, and to be quite honest with you, he can play the James Brown song, Please, and beg with ice cream and a cherry on top. But the fact of the matter is, those who supported Bernie Sanders and joined his campaign are believers in a rigged system, trade issues, and really want to see someone stand up to the rigged system. And unfortunately, Bernie Sanders has now joined in that system. Whatever his reasons were, I just don't think that's going to be enough to convince Bernie Sanders supporters. When they said never Hillary, they really believe it. Now, I don't know if that means they'll support Donald Trump, but I can say that a lot of the supporters will be sitting home on the election who simply will not buy into Hillary Clinton's lies. So what Donald Trump has to do tomorrow is compare his record to Bernie Sanders, show that they do have a common ground there with trade and as well as a rigged system and political corruption. And if he does that, I think some people will move on the other side.
Yeah, if they don't show up for Hillary Clinton, that's bad news for her, because you need everyone you can get within your own party. You look at some recent polling here, and it would support what you're saying, asking who would you rather have as a Democratic nominee. 52% now for Clinton, 43% though for Sanders. That's compared to August. It was up 56% for Clinton. What has happened just in the last few weeks where that support has dropped for her?
Well, what has happened is it's clearly showing that Hillary Clinton is failing. It's not even, it's sad that she has to reintroduce herself, even though she's been in politics for 30 plus years. So that shows a sign of weakness on her campaign, not doing the outreach that's necessary to Bernie Sanders supporters, haven't reached out to the Bernie supporter staff. A lot of the staff haven't got them involved, haven't got a lot of the Bernie Sanders surrogates involved to really try to corral in those numbers. So I think what Hillary Clinton has done is taken for granted that Democrats will always just come together, not understanding the ideology on why people supported Bernie Sanders in the first place. I'm a capitalist, not a socialist by no stretch of the imagination, but I supported him and spent 6 months on this campaign on the road because we believed in his message of breaking up a rigged system. So I don't know what she's going to do to try to bring it together in the last few weeks, but she's certainly in trouble.
All right.
I mean, if you join the Sanders campaign to fight the power, I don't know why you would vote for Hillary Clinton. That's a good point. Teslin Figaro, it's great to see you this morning.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, well, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton have both been on a debate stage before. Watch.
This guy's a joke artist, and this guy's a liar. Don't worry about it, little Marco.
I do not believe a vote in 2002 is a plan to defeat ISIS in 2016.
What the candidates can learn from their past performances just ahead.
Plus, both Trump and Clinton are from New York, of course. So what do New Yorkers want tomorrow? We've got the candidates taking their own poll. Look at that.
Can't wait for this.